On December the 4th, 1966, 5 airline pilots close to the airport reported something that looked like a massive bird flying over 70 miles an hour, despite its wings remaining in a still position in the air. They tried pursuing it for almost 4 miles before they said it flew straight up without moving its wings. And by the way, this was filed as an official FAA report. Reports kept rolling in, and people began flooding the TNT area and the wildlife refuge area, trying to get a glimpse of this strange being. Some out of curiosity, others out of disbelief. Even people from out of town and out of state came to try to see the famous Mothman. Now, if seeing the Mothman wasn't traumatizing enough, those that had come in close contact with the Mothman were noticing something worse. Their skin was breaking out in sores, and their eyes had become red and irritated. Several had gone to the doctor, and the doctor had said they had conjunctivitis, which is simply known as pink eye. Now, what could cause the sores on their arms and their neck and their eyes to have conjunctivitis? Very strange goings on in Point Pleasant. But believe it or not, with the hundreds and hundreds of sightings of the Mothman in 1966 and 67, my research actually found that there was something even stranger being seen in Point Pleasant at that time, with even more sightings than the Mothman. There were strange lights in the sky, and objects in the sky. Yes, UFOs. UFOs were being seen everywhere, and again by many credible witnesses. What was going on in Point Pleasant in 1966 and 67? One of the more famous encounters, even to this day, happened in broad daylight, with dozens of witnesses. A store owner was driving to work on Highway 62, again, when he spotted something unusual on the road ahead, and as he got closer, he stopped right in front of the object. The whole lane of the highway was totally blocked by this object that was 20 foot, completely round. It was silver, had 4 wheels on the bottom and a propeller-like apparatus which was revolving, and he said it was hovering about 4 foot above the roadway. These sightings, just like the Mothman, grew in number and seemed to be centered around the TNT plant, Highway 62, and the Ohio River. People would report their car engines dying when the lights were seen in the sky, or the crafts would come low enough to be seen, then their engines would start back up when they were gone. The police were overwhelmed with the reports and frankly had no clue what to do about any of the strange events. Still, in December of 1966, Charles Hearn and his wife were walking their dog on the banks of the river just outside of Point Pleasant when they watched a red light come down the river and land on the riverbank. Both Charles and his wife observed the craft open and men come out of the craft. Miss Hearn ran to the neighbor's house, and her 2 neighbors came and watched with them as men exited the craft, and they told authorities it looked like they were working on the riverbank, and the craft continued to glow red and sometimes orange as the men continued to work on the riverbank. They watched them reboard the ship and it fly away at a high speed. Again, these type of reports are so numerous, it is really too much to place in this video. Needless to say, something very strange was going on in Point Pleasant. Some have even tried to suggest that maybe the chemicals from the igloos in the plants have caused mass hallucinations. Every reason and excuse has been proposed. Truly, we may never know while we are on this earth. But one thing can be said about the UFOs, just like Mothman. The UFOs cannot be brushed away because they were seen by an entire elementary school, children and faculty. They were witnessed by police, by firemen, and by all kinds of credible witnesses. So no doubt they were in Point Pleasant, The question is, what were they? One more quick story before we try to answer that question. Back to Woody Derenberger. Do you remember him? He's the man who stopped on Highway 62 in front of the craft. He actually claims to have talked to the man in the craft. He said as he stopped his truck, a man got out of the craft and walked up to his window, wearing dark glasses and a long dark trench coat, and he was about 7 foot tall. He asked him to roll down his window. He wanted to talk to him. Woody said he never stopped smiling, and he didn't move his lips, but he knew what he was saying. It was just in my mind, he said. He was staring and smiling, but I knew what he was saying. He told police that he talked with him for 10 minutes, and he called himself Ingrid Cold. And he said, I sleep, I breathe, and I bleed, just as you do. And he told him I would return again. Over the course of the next few months, Woody's wife confirmed that Mr. Cold came back several times. There was even once when Woody would be gone from home and work for several months, saying he was with Mr. Cold. To this day, Woody Derenberger says that he had a friendship with a being that was not from this world. In fact, Woody was so believed that a representative of the Air Force came and interviewed Woody on several occasions. But the Air Force was not the only outsiders in town. The people who had made Mothman reports started getting some strange late-night visits at their homes from men who dressed all in black, black suits, black hats, and black glasses. Yep, even at night. Very late at night, they would knock on the door and have a simple but frightening message. Don't say anything else about the Mothman. When the person would turn to get their mate or their spouse and turn back, the men in black would be gone. The men in black even paid a visit to the main reporter in Point Pleasant, the one who had been writing about the Mothman and the UFO sightings, and she was completely shaken by her run-in with the famed men in black. She said the man that she spoke with was so strange that it was almost like he wasn't even from this planet. But he made it very clear what he wanted her to do, or to stop doing. Can you imagine what the feeling was in this small little country town? People were scared of every shadow now. However, believe it or not, it even got a little stranger as 1967 drew closer. Reports started coming into the police of locked doors opening on their own, of lights going on and off in people's homes, reports of people seeing and hearing things inside their houses that can only be described as poltergeist activity. It was like every spiritual and supernatural power was being unleashed in Point Pleasant. Were they all connected somehow? Was the Mothman, the UFOs, the men in black, and now the spirits that were running loose in people's homes all connected? Maybe they were all one and the same, coming from the same spiritual energy. Which brings up a crazy question for me. If the men in black are from the government, why did they care about the Mothman at all? Why were they telling people to stop talking about the Mothman? Strange, strange things in Point Pleasant in 1966, in 1967. Will we ever know about those mysterious events? Or will they forever haunt our dreams? The months of November and December of 1967 were filled with these kinds of reports. That is, until December the 15th, 1967. On that day, while more traffic than normal waited on the Silver Bridge during the Christmas shopping season, 37 vehicles sat still because a stoplight in town wasn't working. A loud noise was heard and the bridge rocked to the left. And then it rocked all the way to the right and collapsed into the river. The entire bridge from one end to the other fell into the river, and 46 people lost their lives that day. And from that day on, the sightings of Mothman and the UFOs all stopped. Just like that. Just like that tragic event swallowed up all of that supernatural energy. Was it the grief that was so great that no one cared to look for the supernatural anymore? Or was it that those things were somehow connected to the tragedy of that day? Again, another mystery we may never know. Or maybe it was the end of the curse spoken 200 years ago. What I do know is not a single person has ever recanted their story from those days. And I also know that Point Pleasant is an amazing place, unlike any other place I've ever looked into before. It's a place rich in history, but even richer in mystery. Somewhere today, somewhere out there off Highway 62, down by the old TNT plant, I believe the Mothman is waiting. I believe he's waiting for the right time to step out of the shadows and reveal himself. And when you look into those piercing eyes, will you run? Will you hide? Or will you finally get the answer that everyone wants to know? When is Starfield coming out? Well, guys, I told you it was crazy. Mothman, UFOs, Men in Black. What was going on in 66 and 67 in Point Pleasant? We may never know. In fact, there was much more that went on there, but I just couldn't fit it in. I already had to divide it into 2 videos. I hope Bethesda puts a lot of that stuff in there. You know, we've already had aliens and all kinds of stuff in Fallout, and I cannot wait to see what Bethesda does with Point Pleasant. I think Point Pleasant is going to be crazy in the game. Now remember that a Bethesda representative told the Mothman Museum that the Mothman Museum is going to be a very scary place in Fallout 76. So there's you a little bit of information that's cool information as well. Remember to check the links down below. All 8 other of the Scary Places videos are down there. If you've missed any of them, check them out because I think they're pretty good myself. Also, all my other links are down below as well. Follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook, all those things. We also have Discord. And if you can and if you're able, consider becoming a Patreon of this channel. I could sure use your help. That's how this content will stay on the air. Hey, if you're not a subscriber, as always, hit that little like button. We are fastly approaching 1,000, and that is my goal before Thanksgiving to get to 1,000. So not only if you're not a subscriber, if you are a subscriber, tell someone about the KingFanMan channel, and let's get to 1,000 before Thanksgiving. I am the KingFanMan. I'll see you guys later.